Now we're recording. Welcome
Yeah.
to the Slide Podcast. This is take number 3, I believe it is. But I'm your host, Coach Aaron. Jen is my co-host, and she's frustrated at me right now. But Jen, how are you doing?
I'm going to give you a pass because you got COVID. So I'm going to call it COVID brain. Since we can't call it pregnancy brain, we'll call it COVID brain and we'll go with it. It's all good. I'm
I,
good. Hopefully, guys, you are out there listening. And yeah.
we're all busy, and I've heard COVID can mess with like your brain or something,
Yes.
maybe. And I'm going to use that today. So we are joined by a guest host, Harrison Bland. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
We are doing great. And our special guest today, again, is the baseball whisperer, Coach Roger. And Roger joins us from New York City, in and around the city. And so we found Roger on social media. This dude has got a huge following, and what better opportunity to invite him onto a show that's dedicated to players, coaches, and parents to really be able to help educate us on proper routines, how to run a practice, how to make the game fun, and all those good things with it. So, Coach Roger, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, you're welcome again. So, all right, so we're gonna go back and we're gonna start with, all right. So you're the baseball whisperer. Now tell us where that started.
So the idea happened was I was watching a baseball clinic and I met a guy named Anthony Acco, and he wound up pulling a player to his side, and in a matter of 5 minutes had this kid throwing 5 to 7 miles an hour harder. It was the most amazing thing I ever saw. And I termed him the pitching whisperer. That was my own term I came up with. And then from there, I was a college baseball coach at Queensborough Community College for 12 years. I was the head coach, and I'm always looking. I'm very innovative. I'm kind of in New York. I'm looked at as the outside the box baseball coach. So I'm always looking for new ways and innovations. And this guy was pretty innovative and talking some very new science. So I brought him in, and he wanted to help my guys. And then COVID happened. The world got flipped upside down. My program actually still hasn't come back yet. So I had to step down as the head baseball coach. And that pushed me more into a focus on youth training.
Mm-hmm.
And I was training a 10-year-old one day, and he's like, there's a bunch of people that do what you do on TikTok. He's like, you should just post a video. So I'm like, all right. I was like, I guess I'll post a video. And I'm like, what's my name going to be? And since I termed the guy the pitching whisperer and it wasn't his name, I was like, you know what? I'll just be the baseball whisperer because I talk about all areas of the game. And from there, the baseball whisperer was born. And what actually made him take off, funny enough, was a video that I put. It's one of my first videos of me swinging up against the fence. But the way I'm hitting, it looks like the ball can ricochet and come back and hit me.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that fact that it looked like I may be hurt, more people flooded my page. The video had like 250,000 views. And then from there, I think my unique approach to training, my unique approach to baseball is what kept people coming back.
Gotcha. So isn't that something when people think you possibly could have been hurt, that's when you get more views. Harrison, we're gonna go out to the field right now. We're gonna record a video where it looks like you hit me in the head with a baseball, and we're literally gonna go viral, okay?
I already hit my dad in the side at in the batting cage.
You did. Well, that's good for your dad though. So just tell him he just got to walk that off, right? All right. So, Coach Roger, so tell us a little bit about, so you work mainly with youth baseball players, right?
So I started off as a college baseball coach, and
Right.
then from there, the way that I run a company, which most people don't know about. It's that PPD that you kind of see on my chest or on random places. It
Mm-hmm.
stands for PEGS Player Development. So if you Googled my name, you would see that I have a lot of accolades. I was a really, really good ball player, but one place I could never put it together was actually between the ears. And that was like the biggest factor for me, like just really becoming my own hurdle. And from there, PEGS was born, which is learning that to be successful in life, you have to have good purpose. You have to have a solid purpose as to why you're doing something. You have to have good energy while you're doing it. You have to have goals associated with what your purpose is. And then last but not least, you have to have good self-talk, and you have to talk to yourself properly. And those four components were missing in my life. I was doing things for the wrong reason, and I didn't have really good energy when I came. And I learned that someone that was a really talented baseball player threw a ball 93 miles an hour, batted over 600 in high school at one point, and wound up going nowhere because I just kept getting in my own way. And from there, I started a training company, and I started running youth training. I got involved in the local little league. I
Mhm.
worked my way up to vice president of Little League, and we ran training programs, and it became something I really, really, really enjoyed doing. And from there, I also have a very unique approach to baseball. So I have like a bunch of kids that would train under me as college athletes that would leave college and need jobs. So I wound up creating this system of training a specific way and then having trainers that basically trained under me as players that were then getting pushed into local little leagues. And some of those guys still work for me now 6, 7, 8 years later.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So, Coach Roger, I have a question for you.
Of course.
So when that kid told told you the name Baseball Whisperer, did he get it from you whispering to baseballs?
That's a valid question.
It's a great question. No, so with that, I came up with the name. He suggested I go on TikTok because I wasn't big on social media before that. So he's like, "Hey, you got to post your videos," and then I came up with the name. But I do like to whisper to baseballs if you really want to know. Actually, when I'm pitching, I have a really big habit of smelling the baseball because when you smell something, it actually clears your mind. So I used to use that as like a weird way to. So if you ever saw me pitching and I got a little stressed out, you would see me start smelling the baseball because that leather smell would clear my mind and I would be able to get back into pitch and not worry about the runners on second and third, but worry about my job with the catcher.
I
So
like that.
let me ask you real quick. So I know like neurologically there is some validity to that. No kidding. So like when he said that, Coach Aaron and Harrison, could you actually smell the baseball when he said that? Because
I
I know,
could.
yeah, isn't that wild? Harrison, did you smell baseball as soon as he said that? Isn't that crazy? Like that's
Love that.
cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like
Well,
that smell just comes over you. Yeah. Now
I
with
like-
COVID, I don't know if you can smell anything right now, but
well, I haven't lost my I haven't lost my sense and my taste yet, thank goodness. I still have an appetite, but I like that though because it just breaks the routine, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I could Harrison, the next time you step up to bat and you swing and you have a rough, you swing at that one bad pitch, I want you to stop. I want you to smell the bat, right? Like seriously, like just stop, focus, smell the bat, all right, and then proceed.
Well, another fun fact.
Go ahead.
I did that once and I hit a grand slam.
yeah.
Well, then you need to do it every time. What are you thinking? Roger, go ahead. What you got?
So to say, so like fun facts, and again, this is like what I teach, like some of the things we're talking about now. I like to teach to 9, 10-year-olds because I want them to start being influenced it. Also, when you smell something, it requires you to take a deep inhale. So think about it. When I have runners on second and third and I just gave up a double and a run scored, I'm not breathing so well anymore. Now I'm starting to mouth breathe. My shoulders are going up and down. And instead of me being relaxed, I'm putting my body in a position the same way I would feel as if I was sad or anxious. So that doing that changes, like you were saying, the pattern or the rhythm of how I'm feeling. And by changing the way that my body feels, it allows me to focus on what I'm doing instead of focusing on the runners on second and third. So there's a lot that goes in. So smell clears the mind, deep breath clears the body, and now you return as yourself to pitch instead of being worked up.
I love
I like it.
So
I love it.
I just have one thing to tell you. So when I hit that grand slam, before there, my mom said, "If you hit a grand slam, I'll give you $100." I
Did
hit
you get the $100?
I just keep getting it, and then I stop at if she stops giving me money at $50, and then she spends the rest.
So he got half of it. She put the rest up for his college fund, I think.
I like
That's what
that.
Yeah, I really don't think so, but we're going to say that's what she did. So Roger, describe your approach. So you have a group of kids that come in, you're meeting them for the first time. Some may look at you and say, "This dude's like smelling baseballs and all this weird stuff." How do you introduce yourself to them to start working with those kids?
Well, I do like to let everybody know because it's been termed by one of the travel coaches here that I'm the outside the box coach. So I do like to let kids know that because most of what you hear me say, not many coaches are talking about because when I train on a baseball field is a different story. When I'm working with the team and doing IOs and things, that's one thing. When we're doing indoor training, I'm literally just teaching kids how to move their body. I'm not teaching you how to play baseball. I'm teaching you how to move your body to perform a specific skill that we use in the game of baseball.
Right.
And that's where my focus comes. So how can we get their bodies to move and how can we get things? When I approach a kid, I let them know, hey, I'm here to help you make some changes. I'm here to help you think about the way that you swing differently, think about the way that you throw differently, and in turn make your game on the baseball field much better. And that's kind of the major approach, because if we can't as coaches influence the way that players think, and more specifically think about themselves and when they're performing in baseball, then it's very hard to make any change. We have to impact them as people. And I was reading a little bit, like, that's what it's about. It's about the players, it's about the kids. And if we aren't creating an opportunity for them to see success, then I don't think as coaches we're doing our job. And then on top of that, like, I look at it this way: not every kid's going to be a baseball person. So I wanted to be a baseball player. I'm not a baseball player. My life is baseball, and I'm very fortunate for that. But most people aren't going to get that. And even with that being said, my baseball business is built off of the foundation from being a baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
So what I learned as a baseball player, to be consistent, to show up, to go to work, even when you don't feel like it, those are the things that help me build my business and helps these kids that I train build themselves outside of the game of baseball once the game ends, because it does eventually end for everybody.
Of course.
That's
And
been something that we've talked about with some of these athletes on the podcast is, if that's your identity for so long, what do you do afterwards? And they struggle with it.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, I went straight to grad school and it wasn't as hard of a transition for me, but I think I'm an outlier. I think a lot of people, if they can't find, because especially for women in fast pitch, like there's not a lot of opportunities for professional leagues and like coaching and stuff. So I think training them early on to be a good person is really important. And the mindset's something that we've talked about so much on here. And I love that stuff. So that's going to be coaching 6U this year. So
Nice.
Mindset, like we won't call it mindset, but that's exactly what I'm going to be doing, So it's going to be fun.
I had a coach ask me, so I run coaches clinics in New York and do some things to help coaches train younger athletes. And that was kind of like one of the questions, like, hey, Raj, what age do you start? And my belief is that you start as soon as they start playing the sport. You try and teach them the right way to play. Because think about this. So what I've learned is in the first 7 years of our life, we're in a constant download of information. Our brains don't work in beta yet. The kids' brains. They're only able to basically hypnotize and download information. So if we're downloading information at 7 or 6 years old that they're going to have to change when they're 10, and now it's harder to change, I'd rather give them harder words and harder ways to move their body at 6. And even if they don't understand it, it's like the biggest thing as a coach, and where I would encourage all coaches, is you have to be creative and you have to use your imagination. What can you do to relate to this 6 or 7-year-old, which is not the easiest thing in the world. Being that I have a 5 and a 3-year-old, it kind of helps that I can find more relatable things, being that I'm currently involved in it. But with that being said, once you find that when they can relate and they go, and you see their eyes light up and they get that aha moment and they understand it, that's what we're searching for. But to try and say, hey, like, do something this way, and then it works for now. What happens when they're 10, 11, and 12 years old? I'm just not a fan of that. So I like it. 6 years old, like I said, you're going to offer mindset. You're just going to twist that word so they don't know what you're talking about, but they're going to understand the concept.
Exactly.
Well, and I think a lot of coaches, I've seen it. Jen and I both coach in the same rec league. We focus more on the outcome at such an early age than the actual process. And we kids don't at that age understand if they was to strike out and they come back to the dugout and the coach says, "Man, that was the best at bat you've had," because they stayed disciplined, they kept their head down on the ball, they followed through their swing, yet they missed the ball, but that could have been the best at bat they had that entire game. And too many times we're pushing them because they did miss the ball. And we've got parents that are, they want to see their kids get hit, but how do you help the parents focus on some of those things?
I'm laughing because I'm gonna say something that gets very interesting reviews, and I hope everybody takes it with a grain of salt, being that I'm a parent as well.
Mm-hmm.
Parents are the worst part of baseball or softball, and the reason why and the reason why I say that is because, see, what happens is when you're a parent and you're looking from the outside, you become completely invested in only your child. So what I've learned as an individual trainer and as a team coach, I'm loved when I'm an individual trainer. Once we step on the team setting, oh my God, the same people that love me no longer love me. And the reason why is because when I'm all about their child for that 60 minutes, when they start to see or feel like their child's not succeeding and I'm not giving that hands-on attention, it becomes the coach's fault and it becomes the coach's problem. And then instead of sitting there and talking to even a 10-year-old, right? Because if we have a 10-year-old, like Harrison, you're 10. Do you ever practice on your own?
Yeah, sometimes.
So players like that are so rare, and so we'll have a parent that's going to turn around and say, "Well, my kid's not this." It's like, well, I know your kid's going to a trainer. Is he doing anything else that week? Like I was just talking to
Right.
a team today. We have 168 hours in a week. If you see a trainer for one of those hours and you go to team practice for two of those hours, now you're down to 165 hours. In those 165 hours, if you do no baseball, think about what those 3 hours mean in that week. I mean, it's a little bit, it'll help you, but it's not going to give us the success. And then the parents turn around like, why is my kid not playing? Why is my kid not doing this? And the idea is like, your kid is getting opportunity. And if he wants more opportunity in the areas that you want to see, then there needs to be some work on his end or her end, as well as support from the parents, not that they should be playing, but support that if you train, then you will get yourself in the position to succeed. And
Right.
that's where parents lose that, because you see your kid failing. And now what happens is you to tie yourself as a human being to your kid. And now when they feel terrible, you feel terrible. And there's only one person to take it out on, and that's coach.
That's right.
And,
That's right. Harrison, when you practice on your own, how are you doing that?
so I'll ask my dad if we can go to the vaults, or I'll sometimes go out. We have a little batting cage in our backyard. It's
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
filled with grass, not glass. Um, so I'm probably gonna lose a lot of balls in there.
Yeah,
But sometimes I'll just grab the bucket of balls and I'll go and hit in there.
that's right. I know when I was growing up, we had on
Or
the side
I'll
of our house, I would take a rubber ball and just throw it against the brick. And I wasn't catching it with a glove. I was just catching it bare hand. And like I was constantly working on like hand-eye coordination and could I catch that ball bouncing off that brick as fast as possible. And I really feel like I grew, my reflexes got better, my ability to catch got better. I mean, and I agree, Roger, like it's too many times we place the blame on the wrong party. And the reality of it is baseball has to be in that kid's heart. Like, and it has to be something that they want to invest their time in. Because if they're choosing to invest that time when they're not on the field or not with the coach into Minecraft or all
Mhm.
of these other little things, like that's what's holding those kids back. Like they have to
Mhm.
have it and they have to have that desire themselves. And it's hard, and that's why baseball is to me one of the hardest sports possible to play. I mean, because it does take so much discipline. It takes constant, repetition of failure. It takes, and for small victories with baseball. So I
Yeah, I'm with
agree.
you. And I wanted to touch like the difference between also like travel and little league, because you could say, all right, well, maybe the little league, because you're saying, is not that invested. So in that case, that's why in little league there's more opportunity to move around to play, and that's where there shouldn't be as much that more of like the kids like that want to take that next step, because
Mhm.
at 10 years old, what Harrison is, he's playing middle school baseball in 2 years. I don't know if he appreciates how fast that is, but I know as adults we all appreciate how fast that time's going to go, and we're going to wake up and all of a sudden like, wait, it's tryouts are tomorrow. How did I get to this point? And we're not ready. And that's where it starts like to separate. So like the little leaguer should go out there, have fun, especially 5, 6. They should have instruction, the way that instruction should be done, which is teach them how to play baseball the right way. When it's time to play, go have fun and play. Because like you were saying, too much we're tied to the outcome. I'm not a coach that obviously likes to lose. I don't think anybody does, but we learn the most about ourselves and our team when we lose. So without
Right.
losing, we can never be better. So the
That's right.
idea of looking in that perspective of like, oh, we went 0 and 12. What did you go 0 and 12 and joke around and think it was a joke, or did you go 0 and 12 and each game you improved? Did you get blown out by 15 the first game, beat by 10 the second game, and by the end of the season you lost by 1 run? That's a victory in my eyes. Whether we
Yeah, it
want to
is.
call it a victory or not, it's a victory.
Well, I mean, and I've been a part of a coach on teams like that, and every season we inch a little bit better and better. And I've seen it numerous seasons where that team that struggled to begin with ends up winning like an end of season tournament because those kids have been focused. They've listened to their coaches, and you start to see them progressively get better really quick then at that point, because once confidence is there,
Yep.
then it just starts to happen. So I agree completely. So
Coach,
go ahead, Harrison. Do you have another question, bud?
I I have a new name for you.
Okay. Okay.
Baseball whisperer. It will be baseball smeller.
Smeller. The
Because
baseball smeller. I like that. I like that. I don't know if he'll change that one, Harrison, but
yeah, I got a lot of other funky things to do besides just that. As far as things with that, all that stuff is to clear your mind, kiddo. That's the biggest thing. Because if you sit there and play in a messed up mind, how do you feel after you strike out? Not too good, right? But now think about this. So now you just struck out. Now you have to go back up to bat, and the bases are loaded in the last inning. How are you feeling? And the same pitchers on the mound that blew the ball by you.
I want to hit it out of the park.
See, that's a great attitude. Most guys will be sitting there after their strikeout and start thinking to themselves, "Oh my God, I hope it doesn't strike out. Why am I the one that has to be up?" And those smelling things and breathing things just to clear your mind from that. So, like next time you're in a position where you start to have a thought that's going to be not what you want to happen in the game, try smelling something, even your glove. Another fun one I used to do too when I was playing the field, since I didn't really have anything to smell. I could have smelled my glove, but I didn't. You know how you have the strings on your glove? I used to like to smack those on my hand. I like to hear the smack
I
of the
did
glove
that.
when I used to do yes, it's a clearing mechanism. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just to clear your mind. It gives you something to do. Like that fidget for a second takes you away from where you are. So you just made an error. You shake your glove, tell yourself you got the next one, tell your pitcher hit the ball to me, and you get engaged back into it.
That's right.
So, Coach Roger, I have a few more questions for you.
Of course, bud.
Most important one: Ronald Acuna or Freddie Freeman?
Uh, that's a good question. As far as that, I'm going to go with Freddie Freeman just because I like the way that he's battled and keeps himself together, even though he struggled a little bit and pulled himself. So I appreciate when players do that and don't get lost.
He used to be my favorite until he traded to the Dodgers. And then it was Dansby Swanson. Then he traded to the Cubs. Now
Yeah, we're in South Carolina, so generally most of our kids in the area are Braves fans. So
Got it.
they all were a little bit heartbroken when Freeman got shipped out to LA. So well, cool. So so you're training every day, right?
Yeah. So after basically what happened was the world got flipped upside down. My coaching, my college that I was working at wound up not being able to pull a program back together for 2 or 3 years. So I couldn't sit in limbo, and I wasn't really a teacher there. I just kind of was part of my coaching gig.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happened, I had to make a very real decision. My real decision was, do I focus on my training company, which is much smaller back then, or do I look for some kind of real job, I guess to say? I don't know how else to put that.
Oh, yeah.
And I realized that baseball was what I wanted to focus on. So I took just time to focus on training athletes, using a unique approach. And then from there, I know a lot of people in the baseball world. I've been in the baseball community in New York. I mean, since I was 5, that's 35 years in the baseball community. I've been here as a coach. I'm going on 21 years. I started coaching at 19. So these things all led up to me being around this. And I just decided that it was going to be, this is the area that I have to take my coaching in and what I want to do with my life. And the fact that I get to help these young kids, because my coaching and like what I was a really talented ball player. My coaching was okay. Like, again, not to highlight these things, but I guess they're good to talk about. I got kicked off my college baseball team for a really bad attitude. And the reason why I was asked back to my college baseball team was because I was the best player in New York at the point, and I was an All-American pitcher. And my coach called me up and said, "Hey, you're going to come back to the team and act right." And it was a terrible lesson. And again, it's not his fault. I get it. He wanted to win. His job is on the line. I offer that. And then I went to play for my next coach. And then I learned that when he tells me it's raining and the sun's out, I better go get an umbrella. And I use that lesson to teach the kids, because you know what? I don't really like to be told what to do. And I don't like to, but in situations when we're in sports situations and it's a team mentality, it's not about me anymore, and it's about the team. And I learned that as a head coach when I started having players be rebellious against me. And I'm like, that's what I was doing. And that's where I was impacting people. And I was taking a team down because I was super talented and I knew I was better, that my attitude affected everything. And from there, it got me into this position where now I need to now be the mentor to kids to make sure that players that are super talented are not making those mistakes. And then I've learned that through the teaching, the kids that are not as talented, like I've had kids that are not as talented, that from just being around me for a couple years in coaching, you could see their confidence getting stronger, and then going into new areas and then seeing them when they're 18 and getting a thank you. because of a message that you instilled when they were 13 years old, and it's not even baseball anymore. So I learned that there's so much more to this than what I originally thought. Because as a kid, like Harrison, growing up like you, dude, I was just one of the best baseball players in New York for a long time. And number one, I didn't realize that New York is just a small percentage of the baseball players and not even the best ones. And from there, it just led to not working hard, and it made me not have a pro career. And that's my full belief. And now I do everything I can to give back to the sport, because even though the coaches were okay, the sport gave me everything I needed in life to help me understand how life works, how to accept failure, how to keep coming back stronger, what it takes to make changes, how to become obsessive in the right areas and not obsess in the wrong way, but obsess in a way that it motivated me and inspired me, not made me feel like I'm not enough or not getting further, if that makes sense.
And I think we see that a lot. I mean, we see that approach really with parents. We see it sometimes with coaches that, that top player on your team, they're not coached the same way. And I see it at a younger age, and I feel it's really doing some of these kids a disservice. Is, we seem to focus on our troubled areas instead of focusing on those positives and making those kids get even better. And, coaches will, that kid that plays first base in the 8U, division, he's probably one of your better players, probably. Just that's how we generally are ran. So, like, we don't spend enough time working with that kid as we do the kid that's in the outfield, and we want them to hit their cutoff man. And,
yeah, 100%.
And it's, I hate that, because like what you're saying, that there's so many life lessons that you can learn out on that baseball field that you can carry with you the rest of your life. And it sounds like humility was a challenge of yours. How do you help instill that at an early age, you think?
So as far as I like, so I'm trying to think how to put this the right way. So I would call it like an attitude kid. So a kid that would have an attitude, because that's kind of the best way that I can kind of think about it. And when we have kids like that, or when I'm specifically working with a kid like that, the first thing I try and do is stop their patterns. So once they start getting into their modes where the attitude starts to kick in, my job is to break that pattern, whatever it is, whether sometimes I snap, sometimes I whistle, sometimes I clap my hands, sometimes I make them breathe, sometimes I make them do something with their body to shake their bodies out. I'll do anything I can to break the pattern, because if I talk to a player that's in the middle of a pattern, I'm not going to get anywhere. He's going to basically go toe to toe with me, and it doesn't matter. See, a lot of people look at it like, oh, well, this kid's 10, he should respect me. I look at it very differently. I look at it as a person. I'm talking to a younger person. They're still people, and they still deserve my respect, and they still deserve the respect of others. And they also are going to shadow their future conversations based off of people like me and their parents and people that they trust. So my job in those moments is not to go toe for toe or to give up, which I see a lot of coaches do, even my young coaches. And I talk to them about this stuff, and I have conversations where, like, Raj, it's so rough, and they give up. And I go, guys, sometimes it's more about the show than it is about teaching baseball. Meaning it's more about enthusiasm, it's more about energy, it's more about care than it is actually about baseball in some moments, because we make it all about baseball. We don't coach baseball players, we coach people that play baseball. So it's the person first, and if we could adjust to that in that mentality, so that's where I draw on. And so first I'll put on a show, whatever I could do, make a kid laugh, find something to break their pattern. Once their pattern is broken, I'll slow their breathing down, and then from there we talk about, hey, I understand that you're reacting this way because of this, this, and this. And I know it. I understand that where you're coming from, but let's see if we can try doing this, this, and this, and just offer a new set of like, not rules, but a new way to engage. And then from there, give gentle reminders like, hey, just calm down, breathe it out. Let's try and offer them new ways to think, because what's going to happen is every kid, Harrison, whether you realize it or not, is programmed into responding towards things in life. Baseball is part of life a certain way. And if those responses are excellent, you're going to see kids excel. If those responses are poor, meaning they beat themselves up, outlash at coaches, talk back, those kids aren't going to excel in baseball, and they're not going to excel in life. So our job is to show them that these patterns can be broken, and there's just a new way to think. So offering new lines of thinking is the number one thing that I always will attack, because that thought creates an image, or creates a feeling, right? I talked about smelling a baseball. You thought of a baseball being smelled so much that we're able to smell the baseball. So that's what I use in my mentality. Another fun fact, I'll give you a fun fact here, a fun one for everybody. I've learned this. So can you guys, if you're like, I'll stand up a little, so can you lock your hands against your elbows? and with your opposite me, but with your right hand, put your thumb up, and with your left hand, put your index finger out.
Okay.
So you have a pointer and a thumb, and now just like that, just go like this, switch.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
So, all right. So something really important just happened
There we
now.
go. I got. Oh.
That's
So
not
it's a
easy.
cool thing, right? No, it's not easy. You just switch, switch, switch. All right. So
All right.
the reason why I bring that up and show people is because you see a lot when people first start doing it, they start with this motion and they start to move their hands. And then sometimes both fingers will pop up, but it's literally just this motion. So I couldn't do this either. The reason why I showed that to you is all of you experienced a feeling in the front part of your brain. The second you tried to switch it for the first time, your brain lit up right here. I could watch it in your eyes and you can see it and you're trying to figure out how does that movement happen.
Yep.
Now, we're all capable of doing that movement, but the reason why it's so hard is because right now, think about what I asked us to do. There's 4 motions. Pull index finger in, pull thumb down, stick index finger out, stick thumb up, all in one motion. So the reason why I got good at it is because now the word is switch. Switch. So instead of 4 thoughts, I made it 1 thought. It took a lot of practice. Now, the reason why I'm saying this, you're trying to teach a player how to hit. You're trying to teach a player how to throw. It's the same motion. Think about how much is involved. Reach out your left leg, separate your hips from your shoulders, keep your arm back, snap out in front. There's so many things happening in a weird succession that the brain isn't used to. Like I could do some other weird things, and that's why I was showing weird. But like if you think about it, like when you hit or you throw, the way that you reach is not a step. When you step, your head follows your weight. But when you throw or you hit, you don't want your head following your weight. It's a reach. So that's almost as if I walked away and I kind of went like exit stage left and I pulled myself away. It wouldn't
Right.
be like that. So the idea is we're teaching them how to move their bodies. So when we start to get frustrated as coaches, why can't you get it? It's not that they can't get it. They've never moved their body that way. So like my last point with this is like right now, if I talk about riding a bike, very rarely do I meet someone that got on the bike and literally the first time they rode it, they were off and riding like it was their 100th time riding it. But right now that we've done it, we've accomplished it. If I say, can you imagine yourself riding a bike? You say, of course, because you have a clear mental picture of what it looks like, which means that before you knew how to ride a bike, you could ride a bike. You just didn't know you could because you couldn't see yourself doing it.
Right.
So once you create that image, so this is again, like I know it's like a weird way to put it, but like that's what I think about. So when we're training kids, we have to realize that we're teaching them how this body works. Harrison's body is only 10 years old. That's a young body. That's a little baby body. He hasn't had the experience that we've had of moving it and trying different experiences. Like I've done kickboxing, which is awesome to do because the motions are almost identical to baseball, almost identical. And I highly recommend, and Harrison, if you're not, I highly recommend that every kid that plays sports get into a dance class because the way that you move your body is just that rhythm is awesome. Baseball, think about it, a baseball swing when it looks perfect, it's in rhythm.
It is.
It's a dance. It's really the way I look at it. And then from there, when it's not a rhythm, like that looks clunky, the same way dancing sometimes looks clunky. So when you're able to marry the image in your head with the way that your body moves, baseball becomes a lot easier, I should say.
Well, Harrison, we're gonna sign you up for dance. All right. So you're already done.
They all say no, I'm telling you, you'll love it.
But I'm gonna tell you, I had the same mentality when I was younger, and my parents wanted me to learn how to play the piano, and I was wanting to be like this heavy metal rock star when I was growing up. I was like, "There's no way I'm gonna play piano," but that would have taught me so much. And just like what you're saying, Roger, it's like in a lot of cases, Harrison, it's just teaching your body how to move in a fluid motion, like one movement. Like you said, like because you can watch training videos of how to hit, and it can get very, very technical. Instead, just teaching your body one fluid motion. And I think too many coaches, Roger, get too technical too early and start coaching above where these kids are ready for. And I like that approach. I think keeping things unusual. I love the thinking outside the box because that's how you click with kids. And then to go back to what you said earlier is teaching kids what the word respect is, and respect's never given, it's earned. And I think as a coach, you got to earn that respect first. And
100%.
Too many times we just, we want the coaches just to do what we want, and coaches have to have a purpose. Coaches have to have a thought, a process, and a purpose. And I love it. I think it's great. I'd love to watch you coach. I think it would be
I
awesome.
appreciate that. I mean, so I would love to offer like some advice, like for coaches that are, because you do a lot with Little League and stuff like that. the number one rule as far as coaching is, like you were saying, is purpose and enthusiasm. If you have those two things, you're in a great place. Like if you show up to the baseball field because nobody else wanted to do it, you're not going to be as engaged as if you're showing up to baseball because you want to see these kids succeed. You're not going to get the same response out of kids if you walk up like, all right, guys, let's get our active warm up on. Let's do this, and we'll take eye on a second opposed. Like, all right, guys, time for some baseball. Everybody, let's go do our active warm up. Line up on the cones. Line up on the line. You know the way we do our things. As soon as we're done with this, and I also like to give, see how I raise my voice, I raise my body. And those are the things, because that, again, that's what these kids need to see. And regardless, we're getting them prepared to go into battle, whether there's no other way to put it. In that moment when we step on that field, it's always going to be a battle. And when we walk away, who won, who lost, what do we do to succeed? What can we do better next time? So for young coaches, it's about enthusiasm. It's about having purpose. It's about doing minimal research. I say this, go on YouTube. And if the guy looks like he's kind of like a jokester, don't take his stuff. If it looks like someone serious, he's credible, has a good following, take some of those drills, put those drills. Don't be afraid to try something new and be wrong. Even when I learn a new drill, I keep right handy on my YouTube. I will look at the drill. I will show the kid the drill. I'll look at the drill again, show the kid the drill again, set the drill up, look at it while he's doing it, like whatever it takes to make sure that I'm providing the best experience. I never think about how I feel. I don't think, and when I say about that is because I don't need to worry about how I feel weird about it or uncomfortable. I just know that I'm here for the best opportunity for these kids. So for young coaches, you go out there, you give good energy, you're going to get good responses. And then from there, you'll find that practice becomes more fun, the drills become easier, and now your team is functioning better. And it didn't even have that much to do with baseball. It had to do with the coach starting that way that we come to practice every day and the way we come to games.
I agree. Jen, I've taken over. What you got?
I'm taking it all in. I'm going over like things that I can do with 6 and under in my brain as you're talking. Like, I've got all the cones, I've got all that stuff, and it's all about keeping them engaged at practice at this point. And not just how many swings you can get in and how many times we can go up to the plate. Like that is not my focus for the first couple of weeks for sure. So I'm just trying to put things together in my head for practice.
Jen, do you have ladders? Do you have ladders and stuff like that?
I have one.
So with younger kids, with like that 6 and 7-year-old, the way that it looks is like pretty much every 3 minutes you have to switch what you're doing. You can't really hone in on something. But like you were saying, the focus for younger athletes with me is always athleticism. So always active warm-ups. Even though we don't really feel the ball through a ladder, run the kids through a ladder, feel the ball, let them learn how their body moves opposite, equal, and things of that nature. And that's like the great approach. And I love that because when you do things like that, these kids now, when they're 7, 8, they have the base. You've already planted all the seeds, and now they're athletic, and now you could teach them even greater. Yeah. Jen, I'm curious, do you only teach younger, or do you teach older as well, older players?
Well, I'm a physical therapist, so I have older athletes that I work with in that realm, like in a more of a performance aspect or an injury, treating injuries. But like, nice. As far as coaching goes, it's mostly the younger ones. So, but I was going to ask you about blaze pods. Do you know what blaze pods are?
Yeah, I've heard of them. Explain it quick because I have heard of it.
Yeah, so it's Bluetooth enabled things that you tap and the light will go off. So the light comes on and then you tap it. So working on like coordination and just making it fun for the kids. Yeah, like I'm going to take those up there. I've got, like I said, the cones and the ladders and so I played in college, and then the lady that's going to help me, my assistant coach, she played in college. So like, nice. We're just going to hit them with all this stuff. It's going to be
I love
great.
it. Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, Jen, you need to invite me. You need to invite me. I want to come to practice too.
All right. You're invited.
I am.
After COVID. So no, but were you going to ask me something about coaching the older kids though? Was there
no? Yeah, I was just curious if you like what your approach was like to a little different on your end, like with the softball.
Yeah, well, my daughter is 5, so I'll progress with her. I'll coach her if I can, so things will change as we get into the older groups. I coached my son until he was in 10 and under.
Nice.
So I do have a little bit of experience with the older kids, and I coached or assistant coached a fast pitch travel ball team that was 12 and under like 10 years ago. So things have changed a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
Technology and things like that. The things that we have access to, but we didn't do anything with mindset with those kids back then. And I think I probably did them a disservice. Like they are now graduating from college. You know, those kids that I coached back when they were 10 years old are now done playing college ball and they're on to their careers. So
Yeah.
Once
Well,
players get eight, once players get to eight, I like to introduce goal setting and I like to start teaching them about goal setting. Like I was working with my 11-year-olds the other day, because when you teach a kid a goal, the first thing they're going to say is, all right, I want to throw harder. So I had a kid the other day, comes over to me, 11 years old. He goes, all right, coach, that was great. He's like, I want to set some goals. He goes, I said, so what's your goal? Throw harder. I said, all right, so let's say you throw 53 miles an hour right now. I go, in 6 months, if you're throwing 54 miles an hour, are you going to be happy? He goes, no. I go, but you're throwing harder. I go, exactly. I go, so you have to make sure that you're very specific about your goal. But now in the same breath, I go, hey, let's say, can you say you're going to throw 10 miles an hour harder in 2 months? He's like, no. I go, exactly. I go, so why don't we start with this? Why don't we try and gain 3 miles an hour over the next 3 months? And then the next 3 months, we'll see where you're at. And if you're at 56 miles an hour, then we'll set the goal for another 3 miles. And then after that, we'll set the goal for another 3 miles. And by the end of the year, now we're 9, 10 miles an hour harder. And we did it within their self-image without challenging them to be someone who they aren't, and allowing them to see how their work progresses. And it creates a new way of setting goals, because most kids in life will set their goals, and it's a great place to teach, of these things that are so broad that nothing ever focuses us to what we should be working on.
And they never truly ever accomplish that first goal that they set out. So they get
100%.
frustrated.
Exactly. And give
That's
up.
so let's focus on. So if I've got a kid, you got 11-year-old comes to you and says, Coach, I want to throw harder. What's the right way for that kid to focus on building their arm strength?
So the first step is going to be a very specific goal. So as a coach, I would always recommend 3 miles an hour is a very safe. And I'll say the reason why it's safe, especially with younger kids, because in 3 months from now, the kids that are 11 years old that I'm working with are going to naturally be throwing harder because they're bigger and stronger.
Right.
So it's a great way to help encourage that, plus whatever work. As far as that, so like, let's say like Harrison wanted to start getting his arm stronger and taking care of his arm. I would recommend that they make Jaeger bands. They're 13 and under Jaeger bands. They're very light. If those are too strong, you can even get like less resistant bands.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something called the Throwers 10, and you can look that up online. It's called the Throwers 10 program. You can probably download a free PDF, and from there it gives you basic exercises that anybody that throws should be doing. And even as a young kid, just because remember, when we throw a baseball, if Harrison goes out and pitches and I go out and pitch and we're in a championship game, his 10-year-old body is giving it all he's got. My now almost 40-year-old body is giving it all it's got. We're still humans that are giving it all we got. Our bodies are going to be broken down. He may heal faster, but he's still breaking everything down. So getting resistance bands, and with younger guys going 2 days a week, just light weights and light pulls, working on stabilization of shoulder. Push-ups are excellent to do. Chin-ups are excellent to do. Pull, anything you could do as far as that are really, really good. So like if I had Harrison came over and I'd say, all right, kiddo, how hard do you want to throw? He's going to say, well, I want to throw 90 one day. All right, so let's start right now with where you're at. Let's add 3 miles an hour to that. And then I'm going to hand you a piece of paper, and mom or dad are going to sit and monitor you when I'm not around you and watch you do your exercises. And you're going to do those just a little bit to make sure that we're keeping our arm healthy, keeping our arm strong. You have a 10-year-old do that, I'm telling you, probably looking at 5 or 6 miles an hour within a 3-month span. And a lot of people get like weird with kids working out and things of that nature. But like if any of us ever walked past a jungle gym, those kids are out there doing HIIT workouts. When you're jumping and pulling and flying, that they're working out, they're building their bodies up. So doing light resistance stabilization stuff at even 11 is when I really started with my guys. I get them bands at 11.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I would help them build their arms up and do arm care from there. And then when they turn 13, 14, it's a totally different world. Now it's serious stuff.
Oh, see, I like that though, because you're taking the approach of arm care, not throwing harder. Like, let's do it the right way. Let's not rush it the wrong way and cause potential damage down the road. So, Jen, I know you can appreciate that, right? As a physical therapist.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've made programs for travel ball teams, and actually a local college asked me to make just a proper warm up for their pitchers, not pitching based, but just like stability based. Just trying to get their arms prepared for the volume that they were about to undergo.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Like, I think this is one of our best. This is one of our best, Roger. I like this because our message, and we keep saying this is for players, parents, and coaches. But I've heard be coachable as a coach. don't just rest on the things that you may have done 15 years ago when you were playing baseball. Find new drills. There's so many drills that I'm finding. Jen and I both are like, we're just building this long list of things that we've learned in the first year of the show. And I'm going to tell you, like, I can't wait for our spring season to start, because the drills that we're going to do this season are going to be completely different than what we did last season. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be like high energy. Like, it's going to be fun. And, there's so many simple drills. And Harrison, I'd say this to you and any kid out there is, go look at baseball drills, go look at pitching drills, go look at infielder drills, look at, all of these different things, because they will teach you. It's not so much about the baseball or the softball itself, but it's about your body and the range of motion, and like teaching your body, like to have that, as an infielder, that first step, what's that first step look like? And focusing on those type things versus just the outcome. Does the ball get to first base? Like it's like a field day. I'm excited.
Yeah, and just you said, like, watching some of the stuff on like YouTube, whatever the kids are getting at. So I have some like 10 and 11-year-olds. It's been coming up recently. It's like, oh, my kid's watching Coach Rogers say something. He's watching a little bit too much YouTube. So this is what I say to a kid. And then if anybody that watches YouTube or TikTok, or that they're allowed to watch and stuff of that nature, is I look at it like dinner, right? So most kids like will get like their broccoli and chicken cutlets, and they don't want to touch their broccoli. They just want to get to the chicken cutlets. So it's eat the broccoli as fast as you can, so the last flavor in your mouth is the chicken cutlets. So I look at it the same way as if you're going to do your screen time. If you have an hour of screen time, I know I shouldn't really be relating baseball to broccoli, but they obviously are not doing that. So we'll call that the broccoli. So take 15 minutes of your screen time, focus on your favorite player, watching him field the ground ball, throw a ball, swing, and then the rest of your 45 minutes of screen time, go and watch whatever it is. I know kids like to watch people streaming games and stuff like that. I get it, but listen, so we don't want to take those things away, because now once you take it away, now it's like, oh, this is the way it is. If I don't do this, I don't get that. We don't want, and that's and that's where it's like, well, he's my child and he should listen. No, he's a person, and we have to influence them the same way that we have to influence anybody that's in a mood like that. So when we do those things, just say, hey, listen, the screen time is yours. Can you just take the first 15 minutes, chunk in your broccoli, and then from there, go watch what you want, take your screen time, and that's it. And now at least that, because think about that, if they're doing that, they get an hour a day, and now they're doing their 15 minutes. At the end of their week, they're over an hour of watching training videos and not just junk in our eyes.
Because when you take it totally away, you take the Minecraft totally away as a punishment now. And now it becomes baseball is the one taking away the fun.
Exactly.
And I totally get it. Who was as you were growing up, who did you model your game after? Who was your favorite player?
Random. I don't know if you guys are gonna know him. I had two favorite players. So my name is Roger Michelle. My initials are RM. So I loved Roger Maris growing up.
Yeah.
But my player, randomly loved him. And then my player who I loved growing up was Todd Hundley.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys know.
Yeah,
So he was Todd Hundley. That was my guy. Switch hitting catcher. I liked his swag with the open jersey almost all the way, which nobody was doing back then. So that was my guy. And then another random was Nomar Garcia Parra. I really loved watching him play. So those are probably my two favorites. Like as far as catching, so again, players, catching was Hundley, shortstop was Nomar, right field was Jim. First base was Jim Tomei, and then center field was Griffey. And those are like my guys I like to kind of copy.
Oh, Griffey was so great.
Yeah, he was awesome.
I think you and I grew up probably in about the same era of baseball. So I was the late 80s, early 90s. So I told this many times on the show, but I was a big Canseco fan. I loved the swag that Canseco had. He just didn't care. He got up to bat, ripped the cover off a ball, or the ball bounced off his head and went over the fence. But some of those great players, like, even the Braves pitching staff back then, like all of those legends on that same team. I just, as a kid, I didn't realize what I was watching. And now as a 45-year-old man, I look at that pitching roster and I'm like, holy crap, how did Bobby Cox pull these guys together on the same squad?
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's impressible. Impressible. You hear that? Impressible. So it was impressive. So I wish baseball was the same as it used to be, but well. Harrison, what's the final questions you got for the Baseball Whisper?
So Mr. Baseball Smeller.
Yes.
What is your favorite baseball team?
My favorite baseball team, another controversial answer. So I'm from New York. I was a big Met fan growing up, and then the Mets broke my heart too many times. And in 2006, Omar Minaya, which I can't forget, came on and told us that they weren't firing Jerry Manuel, and he was the manager moving forward. So in 2006, I decided I can't deal with the Mets anymore, and I became a Yankee fan, which I
Oh
know is kind of
Lord.
unheard of.
Oh Lord.
And then from there, I really started liking some of the players in the Yankees, like guys that I really enjoyed watching. And so from there, I now have become a New York fan. But if it comes down to a Mets Yankees World Series, I'm going to root for the Mets. I
Okay.
guess that's the best way to put it.
How did your
Uh,
family, like, how does family and friends take
it
it
was
when you
more,
go?
friends were the ones that tried giving me more about it. But I just, whatever.
Because you're there. Like, it'd be different if I switched from South Carolina. Hey, I'm a Mets fan. I'm gonna be a Yankees fan. That's personal, dude. You might find yourself kicked out of a circle or something up there.
It was close. It was close, but we all made it through.
I think, when I think Mets, I think Doc Gooden, I think Strawberry. I mean, the Yankees are always stacked. I mean, I don't know if I ever remember a time where the Yankees didn't have a couple like superstar players. So,
Yeah.
but I grew up. I was never a big fan of the Yankees myself. So, but when Canseco put on the Yankees jersey, I was a fan there for like a small little segment that he was there. So,
And I'm also a huge A-Rod fan. I love A-Rod.
oh yeah,
I love A-Rod.
yeah,
So,
and
Coach,
Jeter. Go ahead, Harrison. You got something?
Coach Roger. So you did play baseball when you were little, right?
Hmm.
Yep. I played baseball all the way through high school and college. And then instead of going into trying out for the pro career, I decided to coach college baseball as soon as I graduated. So I was a college baseball coach at the age of 22.
Yeah.
Um, what was your favorite team to play on or your favorite league to play in?
So I played in really, really cool baseball. It's very rare that it exists, especially in New York. I played travel baseball when there was only like 3 or 4 teams in the area. So I traveled the country. So when I was 15, 16, and 17, I basically played baseball in California, Texas, Canada, Europe, Holland, more
Whoa.
specifically France, and then Holland. So I played baseball everywhere. It was such a cool experience. So like that travel was like real serious travel. Like no parents, like literally just the team, and you're going around the country playing baseball. So that was like the most fun.
That's literal travel ball.
Yeah, a
Like
little
that.
travel
Like
ball.
holy, you're playing in other countries.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That's awesome. All right, Jim. Any final questions for our baseball whisper?
No, I'll probably reach out to you on Instagram to get some ideas and stuff.
Whatever I can do to help, I would love to. That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely appreciated this. I know getting this interview set up was difficult, but man, it was well worth it. So, um, tell all our listeners where we can find you on social media.
So I can be found at baseball_whisperer. That is ERER at the end. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube is coming very soon with some new stuff. I'm actually getting ready to put up some workout videos for hit style workouts for ages, basically 10 to 13, to start offering them some workouts and things of that nature. But that's where you can find me, Baseball Whisperer, TikTok and Instagram. And I look forward to seeing more of you guys.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I got one last question though that we ask every single guest, and Harrison, you're going to be included in this one too because this is your first time on being on the show. So I need you to listen, okay? All right, Coach Roger, you're walking up to bat today. What's going to be your walkout song?
Oh, that's a great question. My one. I'm into like house music and electronic music. I actually have to pull up my phone. An interesting name, but there's a trumpet song, and I don't even know if I know the name of it. Hold on, I have it saved randomly here because I loved it so much. One of my players walked out to it. It's called Baila Conmigo, and it's a
Okay.
trumpet song. It's a pretty cool song if you look it up, and that would be my walk-up
I've
song.
heard that. My friend my 8 team had that walk up
There you
song.
go. I heard it from a kid and I loved it. It was such a cool pump you up song, got trumpets playing. So that'd be my song.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to have you send that one to me so I can pay it. I can look at that one.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
All right, Harrison. What's your walk-up song gonna be?
Hmm?
What's your walkout song gonna be this season?
What was that song? It says, no matter what, all I do is win.
Win no
Oh
matter
yeah,
what.
it's DJ Cal, I believe, or somebody. I don't know. I
Yeah.
know exactly. All I do is win, win, win. Something,
win.
something, something.
Yeah.
Jen, you know it? Can you sing it?
No, I'm not gonna sing. Nice try.
I
Nope.
thought I was going to get you there for a minute. Awesome. Well, thank everyone for joining us today. Make sure to go find the Baseball Whisper on all social medias, YouTube coming soon. For us, again, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, all of the fun different social medias, LinkedIn. Make sure you go subscribe to our podcast, leave us a review, let us know how we're doing, give us some feedback. But thank you again, Coach Roger, the Baseball Whisperer. I'm gonna have some kids smelling some baseballs to begin with. I think that's the first, and I'm not even like I am serious. Like I think that is like the best way to start a practice is everybody holds a ball, smells a ball, remembers what that feeling is like when your mind's clear, and then let's do it moving forward. So thank you again, sir. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And until then, Jen,
We'll catch you on the slide.